Hi, I'm Dan Brown, and welcome to my presentation on ideas for ethical travel. It's quite a diverse topic, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything in the next 15 minutes, but I hope this presentation will give you a few ideas about how you can reduce your overall impact from the carbon you burn, the items you pick and choose to take with you, and how you also travel to get to the places you want to go. I've actually summarised everything I'm going to cover in this presentation in a PDF which is downloadable from my website, and details of that are at the end of the presentation. Wildlife travel is a hugely diverse topic. It covers everything from flying across the planet to find an island endemic, to safaris, whale watching, visiting Scotland for that annual trip in search of capercaillie, ptarmigan and the like, and visiting your local nature reserve just to enjoy the species that are present on your doorstep. What is really important to remember is that this is about ethical travel and not about sustainable travel. Sustainable travel is simply not possible at the moment, given all the carbon burning. And so I want to try and give you ideas in which you can lessen that big carbon impact, but also increase the relevance and the positive impact you have by travelling to watch wildlife. Wildlife travel has grown immensely in its popularity and accessibility, which means that millions of people can now travel to just about anywhere on the planet in search of the wildlife they want to see. An estimated $500 million is spent annually on birding in the UK. And if you think that's a lot, the birding industry in the US sees about $107 billion being spent annually, and over a 300% growth in the bird photography industry in the US in the last 2 decades. Muck diving in Southeast Asia, and that's where you dive down to find those rare and cryptic species, generates over 150 million a year for those Southeast Asian countries. Globally, our terrestrial protected areas receive about 8 billion visits a year, and that generates over 600 billion in direct in-country expenditure. So it's pretty clear that wildlife-based travel has significant economic benefits to many, many regions. But what about all the other impacts that wildlife travel has? I'm going to focus predominantly on carbon and climate change and on biodiversity loss within this lecture. And so let me kick right off with this massive conflict that is our carbon burning, but also supporting biodiversity conservation. Globally, the world human population continues to increase, and with it, our carbon usage. This has led to a human-induced climate change, which includes temperatures increasing in many areas around the world. Now, this carbon usage is a significant problem when linked with climate change, and we really need to be doing everything we can to try and address that. Globally, we've seen a massive increase in the aviation industry and how many planes are now flying. And so I'll give you a few ideas on how to actually reduce your carbon footprint by reducing the number of times you fly. The average British person has a carbon footprint of around 10 tonnes. To give you an idea, the global average is about 4.7 tonnes, and the sustainable level of carbon usage would be 3 tonnes. So we're looking at over 3 times the sustainable level. Studies have shown that about 34% or so of our carbon footprint in the UK is made up of air travel, and a further 19% through our road travel. So obviously transport is a huge issue. The transport sector is Europe's biggest problem when it comes to carbon emissions. Therefore, it makes every sense to start here with trying to reduce our own carbon impacts. Wildlife travel is something of a luxury, particularly when we consider the overseas element of it. So if we are going to travel, maybe we need to consider some alternatives. The first and most obvious one is to either cut out international and certainly long-haul travel, or maybe just simply reduce it. For many wildlife watchers, they might travel multiple times a year across the planet. How about reducing that down just to once, or amalgamating it so that you actually have fewer long-haul journeys? But why not look to your doorstep as well? There's a plethora of alternatives scattered across Europe, which are worthy of some thorough exploration. In fact, some people I've met have spent their entire life just exploring Europe and will never see it all. Europe has an incredible rail network. So if you booked a holiday in Spain, Portugal, Hungary, Estonia, or Belarus, why don't you consider using the rail network to get there? It's not so much just a means to an end, you can even make it part of the adventure. Rail travel is a very comfortable and very relaxing way to travel. Of course, you could take it a step further and start travelling everywhere by bike. Certainly during lockdown, I think many of us will have found we've been able to explore quite a considerable area just using pedal power, and it's amazing what you can see while cycling too. There are many options for travelling around the UK and Europe using bikes, and of course, you're burning zero carbon in doing so. If you do have to fly, why don't you consider carbon balancing or offsetting your carbon emissions? There are many schemes in place now that allow you to simply purchase a tree and that will be planted to help balance the carbon you've emitted through travelling from your home to wherever your final destination may be. Companies and organisations like Trees for Life and the World Land Trust run brilliant and very creditable schemes for doing so. If you want to work out your own carbon footprint, the World Land Trust have a great online carbon calculator which will work out just how much carbon you're using each year. As well as the climate crisis, we're also facing a huge biodiversity crisis. And obviously, travelling to see wildlife is only fueling the climate crisis. So it's a very unfortunate catch-22. A possibility that goes some way towards at least helping the biodiversity crisis is having a far more conservation orientated travel industry, i.e., one where tours that operate as a package engage in conservation activities in a far more holistic manner. But what we can say for sure is that as the population rises, extinction rates are increasing. And we also know that there's many examples where really well managed conservation draws in local communities, provides them with economic benefits and safeguards populations of really severely endangered species. So there are significant benefits to well managed conservation wildlife travel. For instance, you could choose to boycott places like Iceland and Japan due to their whaling activities. However, you could also visit those places and actually support the whale watching industry. This provides obviously an economic incentive to maintain extant populations of whales and dolphins rather than hunt them. Plastics are the scourge of the planet at the moment. One scary stat is that by 2050 there may be more weight of plastic in the oceans than there are fish, which is an absolutely terrifying thought. We therefore owe it to not only ourselves but the planet to try and reduce the amount of plastic we use on a day-to-day basis. And you can start with 5 very simple rules: refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. These are the 5 R's for helping to reduce the amount of plastic you use in your day-to-day life. Now, when it comes to travel and even home use, there are many companies offering fantastic alternatives to plastic products. You can start by looking through toiletries, for instance. Why not go with a bar of soap or shampoo soap rather than shower gel? Toothbrushes can be made out of bamboo, and even toothpaste can come in small glass jars rather than a plastic tube. Plastic straws are phenomenally abundant, and stating right when you order your drink you don't want one is a great step towards reducing their use and subsequent disposal, which inevitably ends up in our oceans. It's also worth purchasing a good metal reusable water bottle. These last for years and they will save masses and masses of plastic, not to mention a reusable coffee mug as well. It's also worth thinking about the food you eat and how it's sourced. Whether you're at home or abroad, sourcing food locally helps to reduce the number of air miles that food has been exposed to. It also helps to support local producers. By reducing our meat consumption, we'd be taking some pretty major positive steps towards reducing our carbon footprint. Animal husbandry accounts for approximately 14% of our global carbon emissions. That's roughly equivalent to the transport industry. Not only that, but the meal that's fed to livestock could also be used to help combat poverty in many parts of the world. If you are going to eat meat, it's worth considering where that meat has come from and doing your best to support local producers. Doing your research might sound like a fundamental component of your pre-trip planning, but actually, how thoroughly do you do it? There are now thousands of suppliers scattered around the world offering a variety of things from mornings, afternoons, and full days out to a full on 3 week, 4 week package holiday, all in the name of wildlife watching. Many of these would have been sold under the guise of ecotourism. However, not all of them are responsible or ethical. It's well worth doing your research into just how your operator conducts its activities, looking at the ethics behind it. Do they carbon balance? Do they support conservation initiatives? Will they provide you with advice about offsetting? All these things you should really take into account when looking at wildlife travel. And finally, just before I give you a couple of examples, I just want to say use your voice. It's the most important thing you have in being able to advocate for a much greener and more positive future. Use your voice to tell people when you see something wrong, or to challenge a decision or action. If you think a tour company isn't doing as much as it could for conservation, then why not say so? If you see people serving up disposable straws, then why don't you challenge it? Without using your voice, we're never going to make any more positive changes for the future. There are many great examples of community-based conservation initiatives that are really seeing massive benefits both to the communities but also to the habitats and species in which they're centred. One of the best ones I know is called the Valley of the Cats. It sits on the Tibetan Plateau, and it's a group of 22 yak herding families, and they've embarked on a community initiative to help protect the apex predators, so species like snow leopard, brown bear, wolf, that all occur in the area, and also providing a facility for tourists to visit. Now, they've set up this initiative by which you as a tourist can go pay and visit the site. You stay with the yak herders, and 100% of the revenue generated from tourists stays within the community. So 45% of what you pay goes to the host family, 45% goes to the community, and 10% goes to snow leopard conservation projects in the area. And it's so far proved to be an incredibly successful initiative. I visited back in September 2018 and had the remarkable experience of spending 5 days in what is truly some of the most stunning landscape on the planet. Add to that wolves every day, lynx, and of course the icing on the cake's a snow leopard experience. You really can't beat a place like this. Even right on our doorsteps in Scotland, we've put together some fantastic tours which explore Scottish wildlife but also draw in a number of different conservation organisations, from those that are involved with rewilding to Plant Life Scotland and projects on Twinflower. Not to mention lots of fascinating local community initiatives like Limbrek Croft. And drawing all that into one umbrella, under one umbrella, gives guests an amazing insight into what actually Scottish wildlife and ecology is all about. I've summarised almost everything I've spoken about here in a downloadable PDF on my website, which is www.wild-discovery.com. I really hope you found this presentation useful, and thanks ever so much for listening.